encourage contribution of those from those originally from Africa to the development of Africa. And people like you, and probably the best way the diaspora kind of contribution is felt through remittances, the transfers that the diaspora send back home. We are one of the companies that are facilitating the diaspora, African diaspora, particularly in about 50 countries or so, to send money back to the continent. We send remittances to about 47 countries in Africa. And so before I start my talk, I want to share with you an example of one of our customers who tell us about his story or the impact of remittances.
My name is Samuel Opio. I live in Gulu. I am 29 years old. I live with my small family, and we have a baby. She's now 1 year and 8 months. I come from a large family of 10, where I happen to be the 8th person in the family. I grew up doing a lot of things in the home, grazing animals. I would also move to the garden to dig with my mother. Then she later opened a shop, a small shop, and I used to be there and operate in the shop. And during weekends, that is what I would do mainly, in the shop selling. So I grew up as a young business person with a dream of only two things as a career, either to be an engineer or to be an accountant. My parents died at a very early age. They died during the insurgency time when we had the war in northern Uganda, because while in the camp there was no access to medication. So as such, any single sickness one is very easy to die. I was not having any capacity to go to the university because I didn't have money. So through my volunteer experience of working with the Red Cross here in Uganda, I got linked with friends in Denmark. They looked through the cost of my studies, so they were willing to pay my tuitions. The first semester, my money was sent through the bank directly, and trust me, I got the money first of all after about 4 days, and trust me, the bank charge cost was very expensive. One time told me, "Do you know about WorldRemit's?" She sent the money, and I saw a message on my phone. Then it was up to me now to go to a mobile money center to withdraw. There are so many mobile money outlets within our communities here, even in the rural areas. The only focus I had in life was to increase my level of education, so that when I have to join an institution where I have a voice, and at least today I'm proud that I have at least a degree out of it, but it had not been an easy thing. It was a struggle all through. During my graduation, I made a small speech with the friends whom we called for the party, and I openly told them that if I happen to get some small savings of money, what I'll share with my friends, if they still have to help me out, I will have to start another step of studies immediately this year. So meaning the sky is the limit when it comes to my study dreams.
And that was what, and I heard two successful mobile innovations from Africa that actually inspired me. And one of those was a keynote speech by Mo Ibrahim, the Sudanese founder of Celtel, the company which later became Airtel in Africa. And Mo Ibrahim told, that was after he sold the Celtel for several $7 billion. And he told us about the story of Celtel and how investors in the West, he was based here in the UK, initially rejected to invest in his business, which actually built one of the first telcos in Africa. And none of the investors believed that they would be able to make money in Africa. And Celtel became by far one of the most successful early telcos in Africa. A year later, I went to Nairobi. I joined the United Nations Development Program, and I was fortunate to have witnessed again another successful African innovation that was M-Pesa. So I participated in some of the earliest trials of M-Pesa in Nairobi. And this was my phone, which I had. It was quite popular at the time, Nokia 1100. And it actually has one of the earliest mobile money accounts at the time. We're talking about even before 2007, before M-Pesa was launched. Yeah. These are the earliest trials, yeah. And I kept it, and it still works, by the way. So, and I think those two stories not only inspired me, but inspired a lot of other Africans. And I think those are the stories we don't hear a lot. I think in the West, the media talks a lot about the negative stories of what happens in Africa. But but 12 years after the launch of M-Pesa, the successful innovation from Africa, today we have 135 mobile money services in Africa. From one at the time, which were really inspired by M-Pesa, African innovation. And in the early days, of course, East Africa led the way. That was not only Kenya, but Tanzania, Uganda, and so on. But today, some of the fastest growing mobile money services are in West Africa, in countries like Ghana. And the phenomenal success of mobile money is helping African countries to move towards cashless economies. So there are now more than 400 million mobile money accounts. And those of you who have not been back, mobile money means essentially an account on your mobile phone, which could be on a basic feature phone like this Nokia 1100, that you can use not only, can do better than a bank account, because you can use that to pay for services and goods, to receive money, to store money, and so on. And so we're talking about 400 million mobile money accounts in Africa. And these are transforming the lives of a lot of people who were previously unbanked, who were literally saving money under the mattress, but who now have access to financial services, who can now access sometimes credit, savings, and so on. And according to the GSMA, the most successful mobile money service in terms of the usage, how often people use, is the mobile money service in my home country, Somaliland, which again was mobile money that was launched after M-Pesa. The local telcos went to Nairobi, studied what M-Pesa was doing, and customized locally. So they actually made the mobile money services free for the businesses and individuals who use. And so today, Somaliland is actually closer to a cashless economy than anywhere else in the world. When the mobile money was launched, Somaliland's GDP was probably close to 100% cash. Now Somaliland is closer to a cashless economy, thanks to that successful innovation in Africa that was relevant to countries like Somaliland. I was back in December for holiday with my family, and for about 3 weeks, I traveled across the country. And I actually left my wallet and cards, cash in the hotel locker, and only had my mobile phone and nothing else. And I didn't touch cash for about 3 weeks. And for my work, I traveled to Australia, to Europe, USA. I don't know anywhere where you can travel extensively, including even the rural areas, where you would not be able to touch cash or cards, kind of. So that's what, even the beggars accept mobile money. So they give you, even if they don't have a mobile number, they give you a number of local shop or a friend, and that's how they transfer money. And so, and digitalization has delivered huge benefits. I mean, here we talk a lot about Apple Pay, but Apple Pay does not really transform economies, or it's not as impactful as the mobile money services in Africa. I was using cards before, but now I have Apple Pay. That is not transformative. but in Africa, we're talking about truly transformative services. And some of the benefits of digitization is that, particularly in Africa, it is the shift, it's helping shift from informal to formal economy. So it's now easy to measure activities of a lot of small businesses, individuals, and understand what they are doing. And many of those are services that were not historically included in the national accounts, like GDP, and or including our GDP. In 2014, Kenya revised GDP upwards by 25% because of the mobile money activities, which was previously difficult to measure, but can now be included in the national accounts. Interestingly, at the same time, at the same year, Italy revised GDP upwards. But for Italy, it was the EU allowing them to include mafia economy and criminal activities such as the mafia, prostitution in the national accounts, which actually helped Italy to come out of the recession by counting those kind of black market activities. But in Africa, we're really talking about genuine economic activities that were not measured in the past. And Kenya is not the only market or country where digitization has helped revise the accounts and actually to really understand and also think about the services that small businesses can provide to individuals that have got mobile money accounts. And for us, for WorldRemit, when we first launched it, I mean, we're a global business, as you can tell from the name WorldRemit, but Africa is our most successful market. It's still by far the largest market for us compared to the Asia. We send money to Asia or Latin America. But I think part of the success was that the mobile money services, I think, that we were one of the first countries to recognize the importance of mobile money. And obviously, the successful innovations that inspired me led me to believe that we should invest in the connections with the telcos. And hence why today, WorldRemit has the largest market share of international remittances going to mobile money accounts. So even when we launched, about 100% of our transactions were cash pickup in Africa. So on the send side, we were always cashless. Today, 2/3 of our transactions are now digital. And the first market where we became cashless on both sides was Nigeria. A lot of other companies saw, because of the negative stereotypes we hear when you hear Somali or Nigerian, people think something else. But I think we, from what I've seen, but we saw the opportunities. And Nigeria is now one of our biggest markets in the world, because we were one of the first company that launched instant credit to any bank accounts in Nigeria, which wasn't even possible in the UK at the time. And even now, it takes a while for you to do instant transfers to a bank account. And I think it's worth noting, when we talk about remittances, the critical importance of remittances. We hear a lot about aid because, but remittances are 3 times bigger than international development aid. But donor countries obviously want to promote what they do, so we don't hear a lot about, or the media don't cover about the Africans that are helping themselves, helping their communities, but of course we hear a lot about aid. And not only remittances are far bigger than aid, but they are a lot more important. They are counter-cyclical. When there is a problem in a country, often the first things we see, look at it recently in Mozambique, Zimbabwe during the recent floods, and the first things we see is transactions in those countries going up significantly. So it's really the diaspora who respond to emergencies in before even aid is mobilized, and so counter-cyclical. So that's and then of course we know, and I was part of the development of aid when I was at the UN, when I became a whistleblower. The bulk of the aid is wasted or lost through corruption. In 2011, only 20% of the Italian aid left the country. And of those 20%, a tiny fraction probably reached the intended beneficiaries. So that's the aid we often hear and the media talk about, not the remittances, which are personal transfers that go to the apart from the bit of fees we're trying to reduce to the buckets of the intended beneficiaries. And I think the success of mobile money particularly is helping remittances, not only bring down the costs, but also making the migrants to send money more frequently. So we're really seeing the behavior of migrants changing, whereas in the past, when the diaspora or migrants were going to corner shops to send cash, which often close after 5 p.m. in many places, now someone can send money from their phone anytime. And so we're seeing the frequency of transactions increasing. Historically, migrants used to send about 8, 9 transactions a year. Now we're seeing people actually sharing money more frequently, sometimes 3 transactions a month. So that is changing. And then on the receive side, often because traffic jam is in the big cities, whether it's Accra or Nairobi or Lagos, often when it was cash collection, it was often men who used to go to who probably have less to do than women who are busy, to go to bank branch to queue up and collect cash. Often costing travel money and time. I think with mobile money now, we're increasingly seeing women becoming the recipients of remittances, because they often manage household budgets. So removing the man in the middle, kind of, so whether it's a son or the husband, collecting funds from cash location. And also digitization is really helping us. When transactions become cashless on both the send side and receive side, it is easy for governments to fight financial crime and make cross-border transfers a lot safer, given the terrorism activities on the line and other financial crimes. And finally, the success of mobile money also is supporting the growth of tech hubs in Africa, because with digitization, as I said earlier, we were seeing a lot of African entrepreneurs who are building services on top of those mobile money services, and so today we have more than 400 active tech hubs in Africa, not only in Nairobi and Lagos and Joburg, but also many other parts of Africa. And these tech hubs are not only helping entrepreneurs to attract capital and expertise, but they're also leading the debate around technology and innovation. So thanks to success of these African innovations, mobile money, mobile networks, digitization, there has never been a better time to start and grow businesses in Africa. Thank you. So I think we have got some time for questions. So I'm intentionally, so questions?
Hi, Ismail. Thank you very much for your presentation. I've got a question around integration with e-commerce, because Africa's middle class is growing, and we want to encourage spend locally, domestically, and regionally in Africa. But one of the biggest challenges is using credit cards for transactions online. Is there scope for WorldRemit's or any of the thriving fintech companies in Africa? Are they looking into integrating other forms of payment gateways to enable us to shop locally within our regions? Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's a good question. The MasterCard and Visa are relics of the past, and they don't have a place. They have no place in Africa. And I think what the success of mobile money is beginning to enable individuals and businesses in Africa is to use that local technology, which doesn't require what they call, which is faster in terms of settlements. I think one of the challenges, we're what we call a merchant. When we started WorldRemit, the biggest challenge, and that is the case for a lot of the e-commerce platforms or merchants, the biggest challenge we faced was that we were guaranteeing or enabling recipients to get the money instantly. But the card schemes and the acquiring banks, you have a whole network of, to accept a card, you need an acquiring bank, which is a bank that is underwriting the risk of the e-commerce or the merchant. You have the issuing card, you have the card networks which are sitting behind these networks. And they have agreed, set up schemes, costs which even regulators consider to be acting as, as monopolies in many markets. So it used to take us up to 2 weeks to receive client funds, because in the early days, acquiring banks used to consider us as risky. So whereas we were actually, when we authorized a card, we were enabling recipients to get the cash immediately. Yeah, so we had to fund, and the reason why we raised a lot of money, I think we've raised so far close to $400 million. A lot of that money was really to finance the instant transfers. So that is the challenge with the card schemes. And even normally, when you don't have what they call a deferred settlement. Even the normal settlement means up to 3-4 days, excluding the bank holidays and weekends, and so it's quite slow. And when you're a small business, cash is king. You want your money instantly, and often, if you're accepting cards, it means there are the charges you have to pay, which could be 2.5%, 3%, depending on your size. Yeah. So I think with mobile money, the beauty of mobile money, and I think I want to use someone as an example. I mean, when I do a car wash back home in Hargeisa, my hometown, the guy who does wash the car for me can get the money instantly on mobile money. So it is free for me to transfer the money. It's free for that small business. There is no middleman. So the money is moving from an account within that telco to another. So it's instant. There are no disputes. He doesn't need a terminal to accept cards. There is no deferred settlement. There is no risk. There is no disputes. All those problems we e-commerce platforms have. So that's the beauty and advantage of mobile money. So of course, mobile money is still pretty early. So, but we've now, and I think WorldRemit's part of that digitization we're talking about. I think going forward, we would not see Visa or MasterCard processing domestic or cross-border transfers in Africa. Those schemes I don't believe have a role to play in Africa when we have a very successful mobile money services, or other domestic payment methods, particularly in Nigeria. I mean, you have increasingly now Visa, MasterCard, but you have a lot of successful local cards, including Verve, which is a domestic one, a lot cheaper, faster. So I think that the future would be some of those. And I think what we're seeing in Africa is a lot of wallets that that are connected to telcos that will also help cross-border e-commerce in Africa. I think that's as African economies become increasingly integrated, it should be easy for someone in Ghana to easily trade or buy goods in Ghana or Kenya or South Africa. And I think we will see a lot of that. And that is the area where we're seeing a lot of innovation now. And in terms of our role, I think we have the capability for foreign exchange management because we have every day, we trade a lot of African currencies. So we already have, the network, the banking within Africa, and we've recently started cross-border transfers in Africa to, transferring money from South Africa, say, to Nigeria, to Ghana, to Kenya, and so on. And as part of that, we want to also help some of the e-commerces to get their money faster, to change currencies for them. So. And recently we announced funding, and part of the things we announced was that we're going to be helping small businesses, particularly in Africa, or Africans that are sending money to businesses sending money to Africa. Historically, we were focusing only on individuals transferring money from here to Africa, but I think we're changing that now.
Hi, Ismail. My name's Brenda. I feel like you've probably already answered the question I was going to ask, which was about the challenges your business faced in the early days. So instead, what I'll ask is, where would you personally like to see WorldRemit going, like in the next 3 years? What are the sort of next big things that you want to accomplish with the business?
So, remittance is a huge industry, and we're still in the early days. I mean, we're now in Africa, we're becoming big. You know, in a lot of big market countries in Africa, we're sending a large volume now, but that is still. There isn't a market problem where we have more than maybe a couple of percentage market, 4% kind of market share. So there is still a long way to go, and hence the reason why we recently announced our largest, investment, far bigger than anything we've raised before, because we can see the opportunities now for us to continue to grow. And so far, as I said, we were focused on individual transfers, which has become quite big now. But I think we see, and we're an African Expo today. A lot of businesses, doing interesting things who want to trade with Africa. I think we want to facilitate those trade. Businesses in Africa that want to send money or trade in Asia, with China, Europe, and so on. And I think we've built the capability. We have the licenses, we have the technology, we have the treasury capability where we, as I said, we're trading with a lot of currencies to make a difference now and expand what we're doing beyond the person-to-person remittances.
Hi, Ismail. Understand how you're dealing with, increased regulation and focusing on remittances, particularly by the U.S. government.
Yeah. I think regulation is really important. I was fortunate. Again, it's something I learned in Africa. Okay, so I worked for the UN. I joined a UN remittance initiative launcher after 9/11. That was based in Kenya, helping the traditional money transfer companies to comply with the new regulations introduced after 9/11. So, and that was 2005, 6, and so on. So, and I learned, and that was when we started talking to the regulators in the US, Europe, and that was what I saw. Compliance was going to become quite a challenge. And so when we started WorldRemit, I think, focusing on compliance was, and building a culture of compliance. And it's always easy to build those, particularly the understanding, the culture of compliance in the early days. And I mean, here in Europe, you see a lot of fintech players, cryptocurrencies and so on. And many of them, consider compliance something as an afterthought, something you can do when you get the traction grow big, the Uber type, break rules. I think maybe if you're an app like Uber, that might work. But in the financial services, where you have the concerns of, money laundering, terrorism financing, it's a pretty risky. So I think in our case, I think in the early days, we focused about understanding, where do we need to get a license, building the culture of compliance. So in the first couple of years, we started our services in November 2010, but we only raised our first Series A or VC money in 2014. For about 3 years, we were actually focused on building the platform, getting the licenses and so on, making sure that what the platform we built was fit for purpose, and so on. And I think we've seen the reward of that to the extent that we were able to get a license a lot faster than many other companies. And so we were one of the first European fintech business that obtained 50 licenses in the US. Because in the US, whereas in Europe you need only one license, depending on what happens with Brexit, to operate in 30 markets. In the US, financial service companies like us need a license in each state, and they have sometimes conflicting different regulations. New York requires something different to California and so on. And I think, and then the same with from Australia, New Zealand, Japan, South Africa. So, even in Africa, getting a license is quite tough because, and quite rightly, because African regulators also are concerned. They want to access US dollar clearing in New York. So in fact, what we have seen is that the requirements of some of the African regulators are probably on par or tougher than the likes of New York. So for us, it meant in the early days, it meant understanding, complying, making sure, if your intention is to get things right, rather than cut corners and rush, I think, regulators will welcome you. And that's one of the reasons why in some particular Asian markets where we were one of the first companies that were allowed to do pilot sandboxes where to introduce particularly electronic verification, how you can do a customer, your customer without asking the person to visit the shop and so on.